Excuse me. Good morning. Happy Friday. It's Friday again. Had to say it. Happy Friday. It's time to get real. Are you guys ready? Yeah. All right. So today we are talking about success habit number 5. Okay. Let's see, is this better? No. Yes. All right. Success habit number 5 for our real life challenge. And it is, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm excited to talk about this topic. This is not something I really typically like to talk about. We're talking about reading. I never liked reading. Just, I don't know. And I accepted that I had never liked reading. And now, because of my own personal challenge that I've been taking, I like it. And I want to tell you about my progression from going to not liking it to liking it. Okay. So we are talking about real life success habit number 5 that we are going to practice for our real life success challenge starting on November 2nd. And it is reading. So I've always wanted to be a reader. I just always told myself that I wasn't. I always wanted to like reading. I always just told myself that I didn't. And I read this quote and it planted the seed for changing my mind. And the quote is by Matthew Kelly. Reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body and prayer is to the soul. We become the books we read. And if you mention the word exercise, I'm immediately listening. And so it says reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body. And I'm thinking, gosh, that's true. And if I want to take care of my body through exercise, it's very important. Why would I not want to take care of my most important asset, my mind, through reading? And so the challenge was, my brother just said hi. Hi, Dan. My challenge was to read every single day. And again, this came out of that book, The Miracle Morning. And so I started reading. And I didn't love it at first, but now I do. But I want to kind of tell you kind of my history with reading. Okay. So I never really liked it. And it might have stemmed, and I'm going to tell you guys a super embarrassing story. I don't know if I've told you this before, but it might have stemmed from a 5th grade experience. And I was in this classroom, and our teacher, I'm not going to mention her name, she wasn't a bad teacher, but she was a very strict teacher. And she would always have reading group. And during reading group, you were not allowed to talk, get up, raise your hand, nothing. So she would take these small groups of like 5 or 6 kids up to the front of the class, read with them, and everybody else in the class was not allowed to ask or talk or need anything. And I was so obedient. I think I've told you that before. And for some of you that know me now, it might be hard to believe, but I was a rule follower. So during this reading group that other people were doing, I was in the classroom and I had to go to the bathroom so bad, like beyond bad, like you drank 6 gallons of water bad. And I was raising my hand, and it took so much for me to even raise my hand to be noticed or called on or to even ask a question. I was so shy, scared I was going to get in trouble. And she never called on me. She never called on me. And I had to go so bad that I peed my pants in 5th grade in the middle of the classroom. And you guys, it was so embarrassing. And the janitor had to come and clean it up, and I had to go home and change my clothes. And I, went home, changed my clothes, came back to school, and kids were just like, feel better, feel better. And it was such a horrifying experience. And maybe that is where my dislike of reading comes from, because she wouldn't call on me during the reading group. That's what I'm gonna call it to, or that's what I'm gonna attribute it to. But who knows? So I would always, after that, like in my early teens and 20s, I would read books now and then. My dad loved Stephen King and Dean Koontz, and so I would borrow his books and read those. And I mean, they were okay. And then when, fast forward to when my girls were born and they were little and everybody said it was so important to read to your kids, I would read to my kids every night but I dreaded it. I hated reading to the kids. Everybody says, oh, I love reading to my kids at night. I was the mom that did not like it at all. I didn't like it. And so I do to them. I mean, and I was good about it when they grew up. And we would, during the summer, like when they were 8, 9, 10 years old, we would go to the library and we would pick out a book for them to read every week. And then I would feel guilty that I wasn't getting a book, but I was making them get a book to read because I knew it was important, but I wasn't doing it. And so I would get the book and I would start to read it. And there was one summer that I actually forced myself to read 3 books during the summer, and I disliked every second of it. And so then we would go to the library and just start getting DVDs to watch instead. So I'm trying to find, oh, okay. And then, I would say out loud, I just don't like reading. And people would give me books to read. They're like, read this book, it's great. Read this book, it's great. And I would get through maybe 3 chapters, and then I'd put it on my nightstand, and it would sit there until it collected dust. And then I would give it back to whoever gave it to me to read. And I just didn't like it. So finally I accepted the fact that I wasn't a reader, and I told myself, and I kept telling myself that I just don't like to read. I'm not a reader, and that's just the way it is. And I just started to believe it. So how about that for the power of self-talk, the power of the thoughts that we have, the power of what we tell ourselves. I told myself I wasn't a reader, so I became a non-reader. So connect the dots, connect the dots. And then this challenge came along, and I knew it was something that I had to embrace and that I had to work on. So somebody says, do exercise for 10 minutes a day. I'm like, on it. Somebody says, read for 10 minutes a day. I'm like, no, thanks. But I knew it was something I had to work on. So when you get that thought in your head of, no, I don't want to do that, that's probably the habit you need to work on most. And for me, that was reading. So when I started reading for this challenge, not the one that we're going to do, but my own kind of personal one that I'm doing, they had recommended 10 pages a day. And I kind of adjusted my goal to be 1 book a month. So I would read 1 book in a month. And I would pick the shortest book. I'm on my 3rd book now. But I picked the shortest book, and then I divided the number of pages I had to read by the number of days in the month. So I knew exactly how many pages I had to read a day, because I didn't want to read any more than I had to, so that I could finish that book by the end of the month and reach that goal. And for the first month, that was all I could do. And then for the second month, I started reading like a little bit more than I had to, just to finish the chapter or something like that. And now, you guys, I look forward to reading every single day. I cannot believe the change just by starting to practice that habit and starting to talk to myself differently and saying, I'm a reader. I read every day. I'm a reader. I read every day. It's the best part of my morning, which leads me to another thought. I used to read at night, and then when I was tired and would fall asleep, and I would not absorb anything that I had just read, and I'd have to go back and reread it. And it took me like days to get through a chapter. Now I do it in the morning as part of my morning routine, and I don't want to stop. I legitimately am enjoying reading these books. So, um, the change didn't take long either. I mean, it took probably the first 2 months of doing it every single day and talking to myself different every single day and practicing and practicing and practicing and forcing myself to do it. And then I just I liked it. So I was really excited about that. So I would say do it in the morning instead of in the evening. But I mean, I guess that's kind of up to you. So for this challenge, I am asking you, especially if you're a self-proclaimed non-reader and you don't like reading, we're reading for 10 minutes every day. Okay, so 10 minutes every day. So for this challenge, our 5th success habit is to read at least 10 minutes a day, and that is going to connect with our A in real, our achieving. Okay, so I want you to pick a book, I mean, ideally a self-help book. Ideally something that is going to almost maybe even be interactive and make you think and grow and change. And so a couple of suggestions for you. I think you guys, I'm suggesting these because these are the only 3 books that I've read and I'm excited to grow my library, but these are the only suggestions I have for you at the moment. So The Miracle Morning, which has been a game changer for me. Even though I've always been a morning person, it's really taken kind of my game and my life and my personal growth to the next level. So I love The Miracle Morning. And that's by Hal Elrod. And then The One Thing. I love this book right now. I like this even more than the other one because this one's about focusing on making the one thing that is going to make everything else easier or even unnecessary, focusing on that one thing and making it a priority. So I really like this. All right, so there's that one. And then the other one, this is not a self-help book, but I really enjoyed this book, I've talked about it before, is The Shack. So I love that. Now, as we get to developing our purpose and what our goal is for this challenge, again, that's going to be your own personal goal that you're working towards. And I am teaching you the success habits that you need to practice in order to reach that goal. Okay, the foundational success habits. So if there is a self-help book that goes along with your personal goal, maybe choose something like that. So of course, the first thing that comes to my head is, health, fitness, wellness, weight loss, something like that. So if there is a book like that you want to read over our 21-day challenge. And so I am encouraging you, your action step today is to get your book. All right, the book that you are going to read. And I highly recommend book, hard field, so that you can be interactive with this book. Look at, I've been writing in my book, making notes, underlining. This says, yes, invest in your life and reap the rewards. So this was just something that there was a poem in this book that I had read it. I made a square around it. And now when I open this page, I know that there's something there that I wanted to remember. And so I would recommend getting a book that you can write in and underline and highlight and make comments and really kind of be interactive with it. Okay, so that is our success habit number 5. And your action today is to get the book that you're going to read. I order mine off Amazon. I mean, they're usually like $10. You could rent from the library, I'm sure, or check out from the library. You could, if you wanted to do electronic version, if that's easier for you, that's fine. I just prefer the paperback or the physical book, but I want you to get something to read because when it comes time on November 2nd, I don't want you trying to find a book then. All right, I want you trying to find that book now. And so I guess I'm just going to leave you with this. If I can become a reader, a person who enjoys reading, and it only took me 2 months, and I'm 47, and for 47 years, I've said I was a non-reader, and in 2 months, I became this person who enjoys reading. I think that's pretty valuable. I think that's pretty exciting. And if I can do it, you can do it too. So get that book. If you have book suggestions, please drop them in the comments of this video. I love book suggestions. I don't have it here, but I do have a list of book suggestions that I'm working off of. And if you want that, let me know, and I will include it in our challenge. So I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a great Friday. I hope you have a wonderful start to your weekend. As far as I'm concerned, weekend's here, and I'm excited to come back at you tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Peace.